And I think this is a pretty straightforward answer, but I wanted to ask, at what point is a transfer commitment official? We see so many kids, make an Instagram post or say on Twitter, I've committed to so and so, but it is not official at that point, right? It's when they sign.
Yeah, I would say there's kind of like three levels of commitment. First, to your point, that like verbal social media, I've signed or I'm committed to an institution. Uh, then there's a more formal commitment where the institution will send out a scholarship agreement that they have to sign and return, and then that does once it's signed and returned. And I'm speaking more to the transfer portal, so I let me take one step back. If there's the national letter of intent, which is something that you can send out to the majority of recruits that you're looking at, but until recently, not necessarily for transfers, so people in the transfer portal. And a grant and aid just ties, it creates an obligation for the institution to provide that student athlete with a scholarship should he decide to arrive on campus. But if you are only signing a grant and aid, I could sign 10 of those, and the school would, each of the 10 schools would have an obligation to me. I don't have an obligation to any of those 10 schools. Basically, like whichever one I step foot on campus, they're going to have to honor that scholarship. And the other nine would have if I had made the decision to step foot on that campus, but I didn't. So then those will just become null and void. Um, if it's permitted to issue a national letter of intent in conjunction with that scholarship, that's kind of like the other half of that relationship, which is that's then the student has an obligation to the issuing NLI, the institution issuing the NLI. Um, you know, and at that point, you're really not supposed to have recruiting conversations with other institutions if you have a signed NLI. Again, we're more so talking about the process of like the fall signing period, less so the spring transfer portal recruiting window, um, which makes it hard for institutions because you don't necessarily get that protection if you're not able to issue the NLI in conjunction with the grant and aid. And even with that protection, I will say in practice, and you've probably seen this following college athletics, um, a prospective student athlete can always ask to be released from their NLI. It's called like requesting a complete release, and then the institution has the the discretion to grant a complete release or hold them accountable to their NLI. Which, if you hold them accountable to the NLI, they they can't compete at another institution for an academic year period. But if you grant the complete release, they do have that ability. I would say you rarely see schools deny a complete release from a prospective student athlete requesting that. So going back towards I just more so the transfer window where they verbally commit, they're issued just a grant and aid because the NLI was not able to be issued. Um, Up until they actually come to campus for the summer to participate. And so this is more of a basketball example, summer practice, um, and enroll in summer school and receive athletics aid for that summer period. At that point, they trigger transfer status at VCU, and to be able to then leave and attend another institution in 24-25 and compete, they would have to re-enter the transfer portal, but likely by then that transfer portal window has closed. Um, so, you know, with the way things are now, I'd say it's really not until that last step has happened that I would consider a transfer to be official. Although once the grant aid is signed, I would say that the commitment is official.